All right, so what I would like you to do just real quick is turn to your neighbor, say, hey, neighbor, I'm here in faith, and I'm here to worship. Don't breathe on me. Come on, say it, say it. Say don't breathe on. You might get breathed on today. You might get breathed on the Holy Spirit and don't know it. All right, so just be wary of that. Man, I just got to point out, Devin, my man, you've grown so tall. Stand up real quick. I've known this guy since a wee little lad. Give him a hand for growing so tall. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, bro. Man, it is an honor and a blessing to be here. I just want to give a hand to Buddy and Gabe for allowing me to speak. Give them a hand. Yes. Yes. They've been extremely wonderful in my life and wonderful to my family. They're such blessings. And they've took a step out in faith, letting me be up here. I'm just letting you know that right off the bat. Ain't gonna hide nothing from you. And I'm just gonna get right into it. So, every single one of us is on a journey. Some of us are at the beginning, some of us are at the middle, and some of us are nearing the end. Somewhere along the road, you had to make a decision. In fact, many decisions that led you down a specific path in life. Think about it right now. Where are you at? Have you found yourself where you want to be? Or are you striving to be better? Maybe you've spent time traveling down a road and you realized that you didn't want to be there. Maybe you've realized that you're traveling down the road and you're waiting for the next step. Or maybe you know where you're right where you need to be. I know that in my life right now, I'm constantly seeking and striving to be the best that I can be. And for a very, very long time in the beginning, it led me down a road of depression. I didn't have any worth. I felt worthless. I couldn't see any good in myself. And that led me to seeing that because there was no good in me, I couldn't see any good in people. And therefore, how could I see the good in God? How could I see the good in God? And the problem was that I'd been traveling down the road for so long that I didn't feel like good existed. And it was only until I submitted my whole heart to Jesus Christ and I gave him my life that he began to do a great work in me. Now, this is where I got to plug summer camp at because this is the perfect time. I've seen many lives changed at summer camp. I got many friends that went to this same summer camp just like I did constantly over the years since I've been going here. And they've accepted Jesus Christ into their hearts. This is a time for our young people to go and get a retreat, or as our church likes to call it, an advance. Get time away from the daily grind, the daily struggles, and be around a community that are striving for the same thing, to be better, to have Christ in their lives, to see the good. That's that coronavirus up in here this morning. I'm just playing. Chill out. I love y'all. It's a wonderful opportunity for your student to go experience Christ with a body of believers that want the same thing, to know Jesus. So if you're interested, I want you to reach out to us at Students at Salem Fields. And yes, that was a shameless plug. Do it in the name of the Lord. In the name of the Lord. I want to take a quick look in the Bible with the person who dealt with a similar issue, just like I did and some of us here. In the book of Mark, there was this rich young ruler, and he was on a journey just like all of us, and he is, in fact, searching for fulfillment. He was searching for fulfillment. So as we open up to the story, I want to take a look at some key parts of this message, of this passage, Let's read verse 17 through 18. As he was setting out on a journey, a man ran up, knelt down before him, and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit life?" Jesus says to him, "Why do you call me good?" In fact, he says, "No one is good but one, God." Now, just right there off the bat, I want to make a couple observations right here. Number one, this guy was rich, he was young, and he had people that worked for him. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like hashtag goals for a lot of folks. A lot of folks, right? I know, in fact, in my life, I've even searched for that. I go on YouTube a lot. I do my research. Anybody else go on YouTube and do research? Good. because you want to strive to be better. And I can show you a handful of YouTube channels that teach you how to be rich, how to stay young, and how to make a lot of money and get people to work for you or make your money work for you. It's the trendy thing to do. That's what people want nowadays, right? If you want to be successful, you have to make a lot of money, you got to carry influence, and you have to be impressionable. That was even the standard back in ancient Israel. And it was working for the rich young ruler. The other interesting fact about this guy is that he was humble. This rich young ruler, I'm going to just call him Rich from now on. Rich was very humble. And you can see that right there in the beginning of the verse in 17. He says he came to the feet of Jesus and he knelt down before him. Now let me ask you this question. How many of you know a few rich people out there, a few wealthy people out there? Raise your hand if you do. Now I don't want you to put them on blast. Those people who didn't raise their hands, they're the wealthy ones. But nevertheless, in some cases, you might know somebody that they got a lot of extreme wealth. You don't see them bowing down to many people. You don't see them kneeling down to many people because they feel like they have everything already. They already feel like they're at the top of the world. I could say that in my life. I love martial arts. Anybody in here love martial arts? Good. I love martial arts so much that I started taking jiu-jitsu and I got my purple belt now, so I feel a little better about myself and my confidence. You know what I'm saying? And the reason it started out for me is because I watched this one movie. It was called Enter the Dragon. Has anybody ever seen Enter the Dragon here? Yes, my guy in here. Yes, Bruce Lee. And the gist of kung fu movies or martial arts movies in general is that there's a protagonist and there's an antagonist, right? And usually this antagonist has built up a big old crime ring. He's got a big old gang. He feels like he's at the top of the world and people should be bowing down to him. But then when the protagonist meets the antagonist, what happens? What does he say? He says, I bow down to no man. I bow down to no man. So at the ripe age of 6, I carried that thought myself. I said, I bow down to no man. But this wasn't the rich young ruler. The rich young ruler, right, he did not bow down to any man. He did not bow down to any ordinary man. Because the fact was, he knew that Jesus was an extraordinary man. He knew that Jesus was an extraordinary man. He knew that he shouldn't judge. He knew that he shouldn't judge. You see, sometimes we get it ingrained in our minds that our judgment serves as the ultimate judgment of good and bad. Just like the lady in this video. Watch. Everybody say this with me. Don't be too quick to judge because God is trying to move. Don't be too quick to judge because God is trying to move. And in this lady's case, she judged with her sight. She bought those cookies. She spent her hard-earned money on them. She sat down and was prepared to enjoy them. Problem was, there was this ignorant young man that was sitting right next to her that wanted those cookies. I'm speaking from the perspective of this lady. So he starts to picking up the cookies and eating them. And she just looks at him like, what is going on here? My granny would have said, he's being trifling. He's being trifling right now. He has no business picking anything up out this cookie jar, and he needs to put it back down right now. Right now. It gets so bad. Well, let me ask you all a question real quick. How many of you have ever tried to talk to somebody and they weren't listening? How many of you ever tried to talk? Come on, wives, husbands, brothers, sisters. Come on, y'all, be honest. Y'all online there. You can look at each other if you want to. How many, let's make the situation even worse. How many of you have been trying to talk to somebody, but they had their headphones in, they weren't paying you no mind? That's happened before. Hey, I've done that to somebody. Ain't gonna lie to you. How many of you, let's make the situation doubly worse. They got the headphones in and they're texting and they're not listening to you. You just want to snatch them up real quick, don't you? Pick them up, put them in the choke slam. Listen. This is me, right? We get so agitated because we judge with our sight, just like this lady did. And then she got onto the train, and lo and behold, after that ticket master came and asked her for her ticket, what did she see? She saw her cookies. But for her, it was too late. For her, it was too late. But the interesting thing about the rich young ruler was, he knew that Jesus was no ordinary man. In fact, he was an extraordinary man, so he was not too quick to judge with his sight. He was not too quick to judge with his sight. And I know that this man was good because of that. And we can know furthermore by reading verses 19 and 20. In verse 19 it says, you know the commandments, do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, don't bear false witness, do not defraud, and honor your mother and your father. Right? This man wanted to know how he was to inherit the kingdom. And Jesus wanted to check him. He said, okay, well, you need to be following your commandments. Are you following these commandments? And what does Rich say? He says, I've been doing it since my youth, man. What do you want? What else do I need? What more do you want from me? What else can I do? Am I not pleasing you? Am I not doing the right things? Jesus was trying to make a point here to this rich young ruler. He was trying to let him know that there was nothing that you can do or can be done to get into heaven. There's nothing that you can do. There aren't works that you can do that are going to get you into heaven. You see, this guy was so good. He'd been following the commandments since he was a wee little lad. To me, this showed discipline. Discipline in the sense that this guy had been accomplishing things left and right for almost all of his life. But even he knew that there was something more. You know, I can see across the board amongst those who are hungry and disciplined. Everybody say hungry and disciplined. They know that there's more to be achieved. You know, I'm just watching this. I'm trying to envision the rich young ruler here talking to Jesus. He's like, okay, what's good? I've been doing this. I've been doing this. But still, Jesus is saying to him, look, there's something more that needs to be done. There's something more that needs to be done. He wanted to show the rich young ruler that he should not fret over the aesthetics. He should not fret over the aesthetics. He should not fret over the accomplishments because he's missing the point. Don't, for everybody say this, don't fret over the aesthetics because I might be missing the point. I might be missing the point. You see, I want to ask you all a question. How does anyone have everything but not feel satisfied? How does anyone have everything but not feel satisfied? What's the hindrance for you? Well, maybe it's what you're seeking isn't enough. Maybe you tried it already and you didn't like it. Or perhaps you like where you're at and you just need to take the next step. Sometimes we get caught up in the material so much that we lose sight of the goal. And for the rich young ruler, he followed the 10 Commandments. He did what he thought he was supposed to do. But again, Jesus was not trying to show him that. Jesus was not trying to show him that he needed to follow the 10 Commandments. He was trying to show him that there was nothing that he could do. Nothing that he could do. And that was happening because he was fretting over the aesthetics. Let me ask you guys another question. How many of you have ever made a decision based on being aesthetically pleasing and it turned out to be a horrible decision? Come on, raise your hands. I know I have. I made quite a few horrible decisions, and I'm about to tell you one right now. Somebody's going to get me after the service, but hey, it is what it is. So I was in 9th grade, and this was a transformational period for me, as much as it was for anybody else who went through 9th grade. Who was in 9th grade before? If your hands aren't raised, you better be in middle school or lower, right? This is a transformational period for a lot of folks because they're trying to find out what crowd they want to fit into, what piece of the pie that they need to be taken, what circle they need to be in. And for me, I'd been hanging out with my cousin since day one. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of perspective here. My cousin was $130 soaking wet. I was 230 pounds. I was doing athletics. He was skateboarding. The problem with me was I don't got the mindset of an athlete. I don't have the mindset of an athlete. And so I naturally gravitated towards what my cousin was doing because he accepted me naturally, right? So I started skateboarding. I was wearing shorts, t-shirt, and my regular basketball shoes, getting my scrapes, getting my bruises, getting my war wounds, getting concussions and not telling nobody, laying up in bed with my head hurting. But nevertheless, I just went through with it. I followed through. I went through with the pain, right? Because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to fit in. And then it got so far to the point where I decided, hey, I need to take it a step further and be aesthetically pleasing. I need to be aesthetically pleasing. So let me ask you this question. What do skaters wear? They wear Vans, obviously. They wear beanies, hats, t-shirts, the skate shoes. And what's the most impressionable thing you see about a skater? The jeans. Them skinny jeans. Now, just like I told you before, he was $130 soaking wet. I was 230 pounds. My behind don't got no business putting no skinny jeans on. Furthermore, when I went to the store to find skinny jeans, they didn't have any my size. You know, God tries to show you some stuff when you're on your journey. Sometimes you just look past it. I most certainly was looking past it. So with my creative self, I said, okay, well, I'm just going to go buy another kind of jean. Does anybody know what kind of jeans they wear? Women's jeans. Women's jeans. Because they stretch. And they get real thin down at the bottom. That's perfect, right? Because I needed to be aesthetically pleasing. Man, I rocked those things so much during school, I didn't care what nobody said because I thought I fit in. The problem was, every morning there was a covert operation that I needed to tend to make sure my brother didn't come in my room. I locked the door. I'd get those skinny jeans. I had them in a shoe box. I'd pull them out. I'd go lay on that bed, put my legs up, pull them things down, hop up, and start jumping, make them fit. I'm not built for that. I'm not supposed to be doing that. But nevertheless, I still went to school. And I liked the way I looked. So anytime I didn't have football practice or I didn't have wrestling practice, I would go home, do the same thing in reverse, that covert operation. Get in my room, lock the door, bed, legs, boom, take them off, put shirts back on, comfy, I was rocking, no? If you're an athlete, then you probably know that you got to eat a certain amount of food to keep up with your energy. Otherwise, in after-school sports come at you hard. They come at you real hard. And so on this particular occasion, I ate a little too much salt. I blew up like a balloon. It didn't look like it, but it felt like it because them pants started to hurt. They started to hurt. These supposed to be stretchy. I stretched them out. So I got home, laid on the bed. I locked the door, laid on the bed. Then I laid down. They didn't go up. I couldn't get them off. Heck, the button didn't want to come off. So acting out of impulse, I went and grabbed some scissors. I cut from the leg all the way up to the belt loop. From the leg all the way up to the belt loop. Took them things off, never wore them again. You want to know what the moral of the story is? Yes, thank you, Jason. You want to know what the moral of the story is? Wear boot cuts. Wear boot cuts. No, I'm just playing. The moral of the story is that aesthetics might look good, but they're not always right. I wasn't built for that. That wasn't my purpose. And continuing on with the rich young ruler, you see, there are a lot of rich people out that do a lot of rich people things, right? Some create businesses, some buy art, real estate, trade stocks. They invest in the future or even create massive structures. You know, there was one man in specific. His name was Joseph Bruce Ismay. He was a young and wealthy man, and he created a massive structure that cost a lot of money. It was about $400 million. They even made a movie out of it. By show of hands, does anybody know what that structure was? I didn't think it, huh? Hey, watch this video.
It took 3 years to build and less than 3 hours to sink. The most iconic shipwreck in history, the Titanic. Hailed as the most beautiful and luxurious boat of her time, the Titanic set sail once and for all from Southampton, England to New York City on April 10, 1912. She weighed a record-breaking 46,000 tons and was built by some 15,000 people. Ironically, the ship boasted many of the best safety features of its day. A prestigious journal, the Shipbuilder magazine, called the Titanic practically unsinkable. The popular opinion quickly grew that the Titanic was indestructible. An ominous consequence of this overconfidence, during its voyage, there were no passenger safety drills to give instructions on where to go or which lifeboats to board in case of emergency. But there weren't enough lifeboats to begin with, only 20 available, which was enough to carry about half of the total passengers and crew. Bruce Ismay, the owner, thought having 64 lifeboats, enough for everyone on board, would make the ship look too cluttered. This emphasis on elegance didn't stop with Titanic's outward appearance. Inside were top-notch luxuries, the grand staircase running the height of 6 decks, a heated swimming pool, a state-of-the-art gym, 4 restaurants, and 2 barbershops. So how much did the Titanic cost? About $7.5 million at the time, or over $400 million today.
I could do a lot of things with $400 million. I ain't gonna lie to you. Does anybody know what the catastrophic moment was for that vessel? By show of hands. Oh, I can't let the students answer. All right, Julia, what you got? Give her a hand. Your kids be talking to you at the church on Sundays? Yeah, that's good. You got a great relationship with your kids. That's amazing. Yes, it was the fact that Joseph Ismay decided to focus on the aesthetics and not the purpose. He focused on the aesthetics and not the purpose. What is the purpose of a ship? Pardon? To go from point A to point B across the sea, right? Why would you take away the one thing necessary if the thing fails? Right? Think about it for a second, though. Let's think about what Joseph was thinking about. if I'm spending $400 million on this, it better look good. It better look good. I got to have 4 restaurants. I got to have a grand staircase to show everybody how much I spent on this. I got to have 2 barbershops. Even people back in the day needed to keep their hair straight. 2 barbershops and a heated swimming pool and a state-of-the-art gym. Why in the world would I want some funky old lifeboats on the deck to congest the beauty of what I created? He missed the point. He missed the point. He made that one fatal decision that not only destroyed a dream, but it destroyed many people's lives in the making. Everyone say this with me. It's my hands, but it's God's plan. It's my hands, but it's God's plan. We get so focused on what, how, and when we want to do things, but ultimately, if we want to be fulfilled, we have to know that it's our hands, but it's God's plan. Everybody say that one more time. It's our hands, but it's God's plan. And as we look to verses 21 and 22, Jesus finally informs the man about what he needs to do in order to gain eternal life. And in verse 21, he told him that he needed to give up the last piece of the puzzle, which was what? His possessions. The things that was near and dear to him. The things that he strived for. The one thing that was holding him back. You see, the rich young ruler came to Jesus at the right place. And he came at the right time. However, he did the wrong thing. He did the wrong thing. He even asked what he should do to gain eternal life. Now let's think about that for a second. He had everything. He had everything going for him. Money. People working for him. And he was young. He was an impressionable man. He was humble. People liked him. Again, why would he bow down? Why would he submit to somebody like that? It was because he knew Jesus was no ordinary man. He was an extraordinary man. The problem for the rich young ruler was that he desired to see things through, but he lacked the commitment to follow through. He lacked the commitment to follow through. Let me ask you this question. Have any of you had the desire for something and you wanted to see it through, but you got to a certain point where there was something else you needed to do, something else you needed to give up that might be near and dear to you? For me, it's like playing chess. In the beginning, I thought it was like playing checkers. Because in checkers, there are only a certain amount of moves you can begin to make before somebody loses or wins. Well, in chess, there's an opening. There's a bunch of combinations and variations that you need to decide on that are going to get you to a point called the middle game. At that middle game, there are theory and tactics that you have to use that get you to the point called the end game. Now, based off of your decisions, seal your fate at the end game there. You're either going to be victorious or you're not going to be victorious. You're going to lose. I can show you many games that I've played in chess where I began and I focused more on the position than the purpose. I focused on the position rather than the purpose, and I ended up in a place where I did not want to be. So I felt like giving up. I felt like giving in. And then I thought to myself, I should have focused on the purpose and not the position. I should have focused on the purpose and not the position. You see, sometimes we lose sight of the purpose and focus too much on the position, and that's what Jesus was trying to show the rich young ruler. Rich, man, my guy, look, you've been doing this so much. You've been focusing on the position so much that you've forgotten the purpose of knowing me. You've forgotten the purpose of knowing me. He knew that the rich young ruler had been focusing on the position. So he said, go give the thing up that's closest to you so that you can be in a truly honest, open, and transparent relationship with me. Jesus wanted a hot relationship with this rich young ruler. He wanted an honest, open, and transparent relationship with him. And he informed the rich young ruler on what he had to do. Get rid of the thing that's closest to you. Give it to me. Do you trust me? Do you trust me with your closest possessions? The thing that you work so hard for? How about it, Rich? You've done everything that you needed to do. Congrats. You followed the commandments from day one. Now give me the thing that's closest to you. You might be at a point right now in your life where you're just at the beginning, the middle, or close to the end. If you're in the beginning, God's going to begin to ask you for some things. He's going to ask you for some things that are holding you back, that he wants to take. It's like a puzzle piece, right? Something that you're holding on to, that's near and dear to your heart, that you're not quite ready to submit. But see, the thing is, God's been trying to finish this puzzle, and that puzzle is you. That puzzle is you. You might be in the middle right now. You might be in the middle of your journey. So that puzzle piece might represent something to you where you're just waiting for the next step. You're waiting for the next step. You're waiting for what God is trying to tell you. You know that he has a purpose for you, and you're continuing regardless. And if you're at the last step, if you're at the end of your journey, and you know that you've been pursuing God, being faithful for his purpose, you've been submissive to him all of your life, you're being willfully obedient to him, because you know that this honest and open and transparent relationship is the best thing for you out of all the things that you've experienced. You get to focus on the fact that if you haven't been called home yet, you got to continue serving and serving him faithfully, and you're proud to do it. And so here on the stage, we've got some bowls here with a few puzzle pieces. I promise you it's corona-free. We've sanitized all the puzzle pieces, if you believe that. These puzzle pieces represent something extremely significant in your life. If you're at the beginning, it represents something that God wants from you, that you're holding on to. And you just keep saying, but God, I've worked for this so hard. Why can't I keep this? Why can't I hold on to this? And God's saying simply to you, because it's hindering you. It's hindering you. If you come up here and you're in the middle of your journey, then this puzzle piece represents what you gave up to follow him. And that you're serving his purpose. And that you're trying to do it willfully. And that you're pursuing an honest, open, and transparent relationship. And if you're at the end of your journey, if you're nearing the end of your journey, this is your trophy. This is your trophy because it represents all the pieces of the puzzle that you had to give to God to get where you're at. It represents the fact that you've been living out in honesty. You've been living out being as open as you possibly can and as transparent as you can. Loving God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength. So, as the worship team plays this song, I would love each and every one of you just to make your way up here. Take a puzzle piece, and you can stay up here and worship, or you can go back to your seat. Nobody's going to judge you. I want you to hold this in your hand, and I want you to pray over it. What does it mean to you in your life? Let's worship.